listening to the Horror Shots Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another Horror Shots update. It's not a full podcast today, but it is going to be a very quick update to let you know about some very exciting things that are going on in the Horror Shots camp. First, I want to thank you once again, everybody who's ever listened to the show. It means a whole lot to me. And since Season 3 has started, a lot has picked up. I've been getting a lot more downloads, a lot more interest in a whole lot of different aspects of the podcast, which I cannot thank you enough for. But talking about picking stuff up, I have been in the past month, maybe 2 months or so, been writing for a website called Morbidly Beautiful. I applied as a writer maybe about 2 months ago, and Stephanie, the founder of the website, has been gracious enough to let me spew a few words out on their website once in a while, and I just recently had an article put up about Mother's Day, which featured a lot of badass motherly characters and icons in the horror genre. And that's what Morbidly Beautiful is all about. Morbidly Beautiful is a site dedicated to horror fans. It has everything from reviews to introspectives, retrospectives, all sorts of different fun articles, top 10 lists. Whatever you want, they have it. Well, I brought this little podcast of mine to Stephanie's attention over there at Morbidly Beautiful, and she liked what she heard. So I'm happy about that. But that also means that she is going to be picking up this podcast as well. Now, what does that mean for you, my longtime listeners? Nothing really. Nothing is going to change for you. You're just going to hear a little bit more about the website in question at the beginning of the podcast. I'm going to go over some new articles and maybe use some of the resources to talk about stuff on this podcast as well. They have great articles being put up all the time, and maybe I'll use some of that material on the podcast. Other than that, they're going to be part of the cast a little bit more in terms of, sponsorship, if you want to call it that. So it's going to be in association with, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to being part of that community and bringing all of you with me. After all, if it weren't for you dedicated listeners already, I wouldn't be continuing this podcast. This isn't something I would be doing without the help and support of everybody involved. And those of you who are new to the podcast, more specifically, the Morbidly Beautiful readers, I'm really looking forward to having you join in and listen and comment and give your takes and opinions and share your stories with me as well. So the rundown of the Horror Shots podcast, if you haven't listened before, is as such. I go over sort of the historical aspects of different horror events, you could call it. So supernatural occurrences, cryptids, stories, and just the general overall arcing background of horror culture. And that can stem from anything to witchcraft, to voodoo, to vampires and mythological creatures, and mythological events, things that happen in ancient Greece. All sorts of fun stuff I talk about on here. So I'm really hoping that you will enjoy what you hear on here. I'm always, of course, looking for stories. So if you have a supernatural story, and I'm talking real life events, maybe you were haunted by a ghost as a kid, or maybe you know somebody who was, maybe you witnessed something firsthand. I'm always interested in those stories, and I would love to sit down and talk to you and hear your story and feature it on the podcast, or even have you as a guest to tell your very own story. So whether you're a new listener or an old listener, I want to welcome you and thank you for listening.